Hey, Peter.
Hey, man.
This was a good one.
This was a good one. This was a fun. I think I saw you smiling and laughing more than I have in, I don't know about any episode, but in a while. I mean, you actually were speechless for a minute in laughter. And I learned some things about you.
Like what?
Some embarrassing things.
Yeah.
But you willfully
some
gave
weird
those
things.
on. Yeah, we got into some deep stuff. This was stories today.
This was
some stories.
Enjoy.
About, oh, okay, that's right. They're about to hear it now. Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. I'm Adam Manis.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Two guys that happen to play piano talking about music.
Talking about music. Today we're talking about some possibly embarrassing things, Peter. I don't know how this one's going to end up.
Well, I'm looking at your prompts. Let me just throw a couple of words out there.
Okay.
Weird.
Yeah.
Worst.
Yep.
Embarrassing. And celebrity.
That seems like me. Yeah, that seems like me.
Well, no, not all together. Those are four different parts of four different prompts that you have proffered as part of our upcoming series entitled Prompts for Our Listeners.
So, listener, we want you to leave us a SpeakPipe about four specific things. Ooh. So it could be, and don't try to put all four on the one SpeakPipe because you only get 90 seconds on a SpeakPipe. That's
right.
I don't know if you knew that, Peter.
Yeah.
So we need brief stories.
That's because we're on the basic plan.
And we have four prompts, and then we're going to do episodes with these prompts, hopefully compiling a bunch of our listener stories together.
Yes.
So the four prompts, and today Peter and I are going to talk about each one of ours.
Yes. Do we need to call into the SpeakPipe ourselves, or can we do it directly?
We have the direct line.
That's
here.
right.
So now the four prompts are, number one, what's your weirdest gig ever?
Right.
So I'm talking about were you at Six Flags over Pennsylvania and you were dressed as Yosemite Sam playing barrelhouse piano on a 99
with an upside
degrees.
Down diaper.
What is your weirdest gig experience? I have some that involve weddings when I was like 18 and saving money to move to New York that are pretty tasty.
Okay. Should we answer this, or you want to go through? Like, should you want me to jump on that one?
No, I want to go through the list,
okay,
and then we can go down.
Okay.
Number two, what's the worst rehearsal experience you've ever had? So again, you can call in to the SpeakPipe. So go to you'llhearit.com, leave us a SpeakPipe, and tell us what is the worst specifically rehearsal experience you've ever had. We've all had rehearsals that have. I mean, I've had rehearsals where the gig got canceled. It was so bad.
Right.
And number three, what's your most embarrassing performance story?
Ooh, okay.
So that could be a bit of a porcupine.
That's a squirrely little porcupine there,
elephant in the room there. And number three is what's your most embarrassing? So not the weirdest or the worst gig. Or the worst rehearsal.
Is it possible there's some overlap between these?
Well, yeah.
Well, no, one's
embarrassing, one's weird, one's the worst rehearsal.
Yeah,
what's the most embarrassing performance?
Right.
A performance where you were completely embarrassed.
I already know that one.
And then number four, what's your best celebrity encounter on a gig? It could be a celebrity musician. It could be a movie star. It could be just a local news anchor or something where you've had like you're playing the piano and you look up and you're like, oh, it's Julia Roberts.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
let us know.
That's mine.
Oh, perfect.
Maybe. We'll have to see. All right. Those are great. Okay. So number one, can I state it and then we'll answer it?
Go.
Okay. Number one, what's your weirdest gig ever?
Yeah. For me?
Yes.
Okay. My weirdest gig ever was actually my first gig ever. My very first paying gig. I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
My band director, shout out to Jeff Melsha.
Yeah.
At Northwest High School, he was very supportive and
Go Bears.
Yeah, he's as soon as when he heard me my sophomore year in high school when he got the job, he was like, you need to start lessons with Carol Beth True, who is a legendary local jazz piano teacher here, and really got me on the track to even be where I am now. So shout out to band directors everywhere for being supportive. But Jeff got me my first gig, and it was with a lovely band. I think there was something with Dixie in the title, so it's a bit problematic. But it was a sort of.
What year was this?
This was 1990. Well, I can tell you. What year did the Rams come to St. Louis? Because it was the year the Rams came to St. Louis. So I want to say 94 or 5.
Was Jerry Jones involved with this? Because from the title,
Dan Kroenke was. So, and it was weird. So this was a. It was with we'll call it a trad jazz band, but that's not what they called themselves. And it was at
alt-right jazz.
It was at the opening of a gas station, of a Shell gas station at the corner of Manchester and 141, way out in West County.
Was there a blow-up guy there?
This is decades before those things even existed here. But it was the summer that right before the Rams' first season in St. Louis, and at the Shell gas station was this trad jazz band, which I had no part of being in. I knew some jazz chords, mostly from Oscar Peterson, Bill Evans.
What about like Saints Go March? Did you guys play Saints?
3 times. It was that kind of gig, right?
Yeah.
And then I remember it, distinctly because I was 15 and there were Rams cheerleaders there, like right in front of us for the whole gig. So it was such an odd experience. I'm 15. I'm playing my first ever paid gig. I feel a little bit awesome about that. But then also, like, I have no idea what's going on. Because we're playing, like, traditional ragtime, New Orleans stuff. I've never heard that music, really, aside from cultural things and movies and stuff. So I'm trying to fake my way through it. I only know some basic chords because I've been studying, the theory of the stuff for just a couple of months. And then there's, like... And I'm 15, and there's like 6 cheerleaders dancing right in front of me. It was and my dad is.
It was the best.
My dad had to drive me there. We're out in the sun at a Shell station in the middle of the suburbs. It was the weirdest gig, man.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty weird. I've got a couple of weird ones, but I got to up my game. I got to find the weirdest one because that's weird. So, I'm gonna go with So one of the first gigs that we had a little band when we were we actually started when we were in middle school still, and we kind of it started flowering a little bit into a nice little group by the time we were in high school. But when we first started out, it was the same thing. Like we didn't know what we were doing. Like we knew a couple tunes kind of, but we knew like from big band charts that we were doing, like the theme from Rocky, just little things that we would do. But we somehow got hired to play it must have been 50-year high school reunion because these folks were old AF. So 50 years would have been, not that old actually now, 60, like late 60s. Yeah. Maybe it was 60. I mean, well, at the time, this would have been like mid 80s.
Right.
Like their hit songs that they wanted to hear were from like pre any kind of jazz we knew. And the thing was, all we knew was like the theme from Rocky, Chameleon, Bumped, Dump, because we did that in marching band, George Benson.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name. Anyway, like literally it was only 3 songs that we knew. And so like there was some older folks that were like, we want to hear, like they're naming these songs that we'd never heard of. But the thing is, this was at University City High School, like 50-year, and it was out at Westport at some hotel ballroom, and they got this crappy middle school band. What genius did that? But because we didn't have a bass player at that time, or our bass player couldn't make it, we Jeremy Davenport's dad, big shout out to Jeremy and to Roger Davenport, got us a bass player that he knew, which was none other than Jeff Anderson.
Oh,
and that was my first time meeting him and playing with him. And he was, a little older than us. And so he kind of realized that it was about to turn into an angry mob.
Oh, boy.
If we kept playing Herbie Hancock's Chameleon over and over. I mean, like, we're looping songs, So he was like, let's play In the Mood. They'll love that. And we're like, what is that? He's like, just follow me. And so we slopped our way through In the Mood. That's when I first learned it. And we looped that sucker, and they danced to it and kind of liked it, but we're a little bit pissed off. And that was the night, and we ran out of there in shame. It could also go down as the most embarrassing one, too, but I got another one for that.
I got a good embarrassing one, too. Well, let's move on to our next prompt, which is, what's the worst rehearsal experience you've ever had? I've got a good one ready to go.
Okay, please.
Okay, so when I was a senior in high school, and I might have just graduated high school, it was right before I was moving to New York, I was in a dance band, and it was mostly Parliament cover band, that like Parliament James Brown, called Son of Star Child, which had a pretty big following here in St. Louis, which was really fun to play and to learn all that music, to learn all like Bernie Worrell's parts and all the James Brown stuff was really fun, and just to play like dance music where like people were super into that band and super into dancing, and to play for people dancing every night was unbelievable, and I actually miss it. But anyway, we had one rehearsal. We had a background singer.
BG.
I won't say her name, but because we had several in the band during my tenure. But this particular background singer came from a very religious background, and we had one rehearsal. We rehearsed all the time, like twice a week. And we had one rehearsal at this crummy little rehearsal space that's no longer there. It's right at Kings Highway down here in St. Louis, right down the street from where we are now. And it was like definitely a fire hazard, this building, right? Definitely like going to collapse on someone at some point. But anyway, we're in this rehearsal, and about halfway through the rehearsal, knock on the rehearsal door, and we think it's like some of the other people in the rehearsal spot probably wanting to like borrow a bong or something, but it's the dad of one of the background singers, and he's a very religious man.
Yeah,
and we find out, was not at all approving of his daughter, who wasn't like young. She was probably in her early 20s.
Oh yeah,
but like
she was of age.
Yeah, but so basically he came in and spent literally an hour and a half berating us. He was standing in the door, and he was kind of a big guy, and he was just like, we're all going to hell for playing this music.
Wow.
This is the devil's music. And she's crying and also like, you're right. Like it was by far the worst experience I've ever had in music, maybe, just to be like sermoned at in a really negative way by this dude who was upset that his daughter was playing in a parliament.
Spiritually degrading, I would
Spiritually degrading, and just kind of a weird thing to do, to hold a room full of people kind of hostage with your... And we were all so young, so we were just like, yes, sir, but also... I think at some point someone was like, man, what is the point of this? You know? And so we ended up leaving. It was just so awkward and so weird. Obviously, that was her last rehearsal with the band. But,
right. Yeah. But, just in the spirit of all things end well, years later, you guys are still married. You have a beautiful family that you had. Glad it worked out.
Shout out to my father-in-law.
He finally blessed the wedding. And that's good. Well, that's good. That's great. That's... worst rehearsal. Okay, so I've probably had some more that I've forgotten because I hate bad rehearsals. I don't even like good rehearsals.
Try to block them out, man. Yeah.
I try to block
the
them
best
out.
Rehearsal is the one at the sound check for
exactly when everybody's shedded their parts and they just come together.
Exactly.
But there was one, and I cannot name the orchestra or the conductor because it's kind of a big time. I mean, bigger than you would think.
Yeah.
But not really big because this wouldn't have happened if they were that big time.
Right.
But I mean, respect. Like if you heard it, be like, oh, you're playing with the such and such. Well, that must have been great. Well, no, not in this case. And this was with Diane Reeves and the band. And, we've done a lot of these orchestra gigs. And
yeah, you guys are pros at those.
Yeah. But we had a conductor that was just, I don't think he was licensed by any state or, he should have had his baton taken from him. First of all, he had a baton. That's always a bad sign.
When they have a baton?
Yeah. And when they have a baton. Because a lot of times
all conductors have a baton?
No, a lot of them just, go sans baton. It's okay if they have it, but it's a little bit of a red flag sometimes,
Okay.
And if they have a baton with a case and they open it up, that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
But this gentleman, this conductor, and I use both terms very loosely, did not know the music. Like we have, arrangements that have been vetted and like really good parts and some of the stuff's kind of hard, but nothing's unplayable. But it's one of those situations where we only had one rehearsal and it was like a few hours before the show. So it was already, I don't like doing those when we're rehearsing. And for Diane, it's hard because she's got to get ready to sing. And, you've got like a 2-hour rehearsal to do a 90-minute show and they need to take a break and you're going to be doing it in a couple hours. It's hard, So we get in there and this conductor, like from the beginning, I could tell like he didn't know. He hadn't listened to it. He hadn't looked at the charts.
Shit.
And like we started Embraceable You, which is a fantastic Billy Childs arrangement that he did for Diane that we've done a bunch of times. It's incredible. He started it like, it's kind of in 8 though, the way it's written, instead of in 4 like a typical thing. And so he starts it twice too fast because he's trying to do it in 4. And I was like, hold on, it's 4. And he's like, oh. But it was so bad. Like everything that we're doing, the orchestra couldn't follow him. We couldn't, like, I had to start conducting while playing, like kind of behind because at first I'm trying to cue the conductor, but I'm like, he's worthless. But I'm like, we got to do a show.
Yeah.
So I'm like cueing and your concert master, I'm sitting right by them with the piano and playing. The concert master, we're watching you. And it was horrible.
That's awful.
Everything just becomes like, how can we pull this together just to get through the show?
Yeah.
Instead of like, let's have fun when we get there. And there's all this hard piano stuff. So I was playing. I didn't play well, but we barely held it together. But that was bad.
That's bad.
It was unprofessional.
I have a brief conductor story.
Big shout out to the New York Philharmonic.
I have, yeah, right. I have a kind of the opposite story once with the conductor. I had arranged a whole show and it was not classical music. It was kind of like along the lines of country music, for a really great orchestra. And there was a guest conductor coming in to do it. And I met with them to go over everything, and they were like, do you like this music? And I was like, yeah, I kind of like this music. And they're like, well, I can't stand it. And I was like, wait, I'm about to play the show. I arranged the music, But to their credit, like they did a fantastic job. Like the score was marked up, and like
they just didn't like it.
They knew that. Yeah, they're just like very open. Like I don't like this. I was like, all right. And I don't think like they were talking about my arrangements. I think just the concept in general, and which I understand. Some of those pop shows can be a little whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, next prompt. What is your most embarrassing performance story? I have a quick one.
Okay, good. So I'll try to think of a quick one too. Then
all this stuff kind of happened. That's my like end high school career up until the time I moved to New York. I was still finding myself. Yeah. I was doing a lot of various things, so I have a lot of great stories from that era. But I was also I was a big guy. I was about 100 pounds heavier than I was now.
What?
I was pushing it up there, and I had one of those keyboard benches that's like an X, and it's got a board. Like a cushion, and then it kind of comes out. I had one of those. I had somehow left it outside, and it got rained on. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just dry it out or whatever. But some weeks went by, it dried out, everything was fine. It didn't smell, which was great, because I'd left it out in the sun. But come to find out, that particle board in that seat had rotted, and I was quite large. So I'm sitting down to play a gig, and I literally sit down for the second set, and I go through the X stand and I fall back.
Oh, were you okay?
And it was one of the most embarrassing moments you could. I'm on stage.
Did you hurt yourself?
I was fine.
Did you get a bobo?
My ego died a little bit, which was good. It was good.
Is that when you started keto the next day? Keto diet?
I might have started keto not soon after that, yeah.
Okay, embarrassing performance. Well, one, I mean, I've had several. Again, like I kind of blocked them out, but there was one in particular I remember where I was playing, and it was sort of a gala thing for like it wasn't really a small event. It was actually quite a few people there, but it was sort of a gala, and I was accompanying a saxophone player who will remain nameless because I don't want to implicate him or her along with me. But basically, we ended up having to kind of wait around, and we're just going out to play one song. And I don't want to blame others, but I somehow got...
But I'm going to.
I somehow got overserved in the...
Oh, that's no one's fault but your own. Come on.
No, they were like, you want something to drink? I was like, okay, fine. And like, we're supposed to... Like, everything got delayed. And they kept saying, do you want something?
Would that be something you might be interested in?
Well, this was... Yeah, I got overserved, and it was hot out, and I think I hadn't eaten.
It was hot.
It was. We were like in the sort of like tent. It was really nice, and I don't remember. I didn't really drink a lot, but it was just sort of bad timing.
I mean, if we're talking drunk gig stories, then the whole episode.
But then we went out, and I was kind of like, it wasn't until I'm walking up there that I was kind of like, whoa, a little. But I was like, oh, it'll be fine. And we're playing
famous
take five.
last words.
We're playing take five, and just duo, and somehow I could not play it. I kept playing it in like 6 or 4. Like I couldn't stay in 5. It's like boo boo doo boo. I mean, it was just, and I wasn't sure. I was like, wait, am I playing in 5? Or am I? And the saxophonist is like looking over at me like, oh, like take 5. That's the name of the song. And like, I'd play like one measure. I got it in 5. And
Shout out to Paul Desmond.
Shout out to Budweiser on a summer day. Yeah.
Wow,
so anyway, I remember like that's
one.
the only time I can't say this is the only time I've drank before a gig, but it's the only time I think I've ever been.
It's never a good idea.
That it's degraded my performance at all. It was not a good feeling.
It's not a good feeling. It's never a good idea.
We slopped our way through it.
Quickly, what's your best celebrity encounter on a gig?
Like just that's at the gig.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got a couple up my sleeve, but you mentioned, what's the actress's name you mentioned at the beginning of this? Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
So she came to a gig with the guy that she was married with 2 years ago, the kind of countryish singer. I'm forgetting his name now.
Lyle Lovett.
Lyle Lovett.
Sure.
They came on their first... I think it was their first date or weekend date. They were in New Orleans.
No way.
Yeah, she was I believe she was doing Pelican Brief or something. She was making a movie in New Orleans. Or they were there. They came to Snug Harbor, no entourage, anything. The two of them sat upstairs at a trio gig I was playing with Chris Thomas and Brian Blade on drums. And like stayed the whole set, and they came up after. Well, we went upstairs because that's where the kind of dressing room was. And I'm like, oh, we really enjoyed it. And she was super nice, and like he was a little salty with us, a little bit like protective of.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, this is my lady or whatever. But I don't even think it was like public at the time.
Interesting.
Or it was just they were there, and then like right after that, I wasn't paying attention. And then they're like, oh yeah, they're dating now, or maybe got married even like that week. I don't know. But this was apparently like their first like out in public date, and they were comfortable doing it in New Orleans because New Orleans for celebrities is kind of chill, But
that's good, man.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Yeah.
I was going to bring up a couple different presidents too.
Yeah,
But because you
you've
said
been
that,
there.
I'm going to
Yeah,
go
yeah.
with that. Yeah.
No, Julia
What
Roberts,
about
that's
yours?
solid.
Is this somebody named Doug by any chance?
No, it's not. It's not Hugh. Thanks. No, one of my favorites ever. I've had a few, in my time, but one of my favorites ever. I think I just told you this yesterday. I was telling the story to you and our buddy Sean was playing at the Chase Park Plaza here down the street, and Huey Lewis was just listening to the whole set, just
I love that.
chilling, and I got to meet Huey Lewis, one of my favorite bands from my childhood. So
That's awesome.
That was a really fun time.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you for this. This was a great idea, Adam. That I had.
Let's recap. So let's recap. So
number one,
you'llhearit.com and leave us your SpeakPipe for
Yes.
either number one, what's your weirdest gig story? Weird. I'm talking weird gig stories.
and we're just gonna say, like, when you go there, just sort of say which one of these four. Don't try
Yeah.
to pick your one and say, I want to tell you about blah.
Number two, what's the worst rehearsal experience you've ever had? Number three, what's your most embarrassing performance story?
Yes.
And number four, what's your best celebrity encounter on a gig?
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Till next time.
You'll hear it.
I'm in Steamboat Springs, Colorado currently.
I'm in Indianapolis.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Andrew, hi.
Because I feel inspired to play something else from your playing.
Okay, that's great.
I think using the metronome is a great tool, but it's not the only tool.
All of the answers are really in the music.
What does it mean to live in a groove, be in a groove?
Until next time, happy practicing.